Most associations start with their LMS search the same way. They build a features list, maybe they list out AI, gamification, microlearning, check, check, check. And that's exactly where they're going wrong. You have to understand that there are over 1,000 learning management systems on the market, and not one of them is right for everyone. The problem isn't just finding a platform, is that most organizations don't know what they actually need before they start looking. Industry leader John Lay has spent 13 years studying this market. His number one finding is that you should start with your business goal in mind, not just the features. Who are your learners? What behavior are you trying to change? Are you selling education as a product, as a membership benefit? Are you delivering mandatory compliance? Because those are entirely different systems. In this episode, John breaks down the mistakes associations make, which AI features actually matter, and why your LMS search should start way before you talk to a single vendor. This one's worth every minute. Let's check it out. Hey everybody, Erick Prospero here with the Microlearning Lab. I'm here with John Lay, the LMS consultant to know if you're looking for a new platform, learning management system in this space. And I'm very excited. I've known John for years. And one of the cool things about his approach is he does a lot of free consultations specifically for finding a new LMS. It's a really cool model. He consistently provides value and you can easily book on his schedule. I know we're going to talk about a lot of different things tied to association LMSs, AI in the space as well. But I wanted to start with that because honestly, I just wish this existed when I started my career in the association space. And it's great. If you go to his site, we'll put the link in the description and you can schedule it whenever you want. You can talk to him about your problems. Hopefully they're LMS related. But John, before we get into this, can you tell us a little more about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Super glad to be here. Welcome, everybody. I'm an independent LMS selection consultant, and broader than that, I'm an independent analyst of the global learning system marketplace. So for the last 13 years, I've been studying the 1,000 different learning systems that are out in the marketplace and trying to categorize them and understand what they can and can't do and communicate that to the marketplace so that they can see this research and use this research freely, because the market is so confusing. And as a day job, what we do is we help, and what I do is help organization after organization go through a formal buying process to help figure out exactly what they need and cut through 1,000 vendors to the solutions that match what they're trying to achieve. And I've been in the industry for about, 25 years now doing very similar things.
Wonderful. I know there's a lot of unique factors in the association space that matter, right? Whether if you're dealing with productized learning experiences, delivering a good customer experience, membership benefits tied to LMS platforms as well. And when I started my career, we actually were going through this LMS transition process. It was kind of interesting because we literally started with a features list, right? We researched and looked up the type of features we wanted without really having a defined strategy in place. Now, before you jump into features, when you're looking for an LMS, especially for an association, what should they really be focused on in terms of strategy or business goals?
Yeah, well, exactly that. Exactly that. One of the biggest mistakes organizations make is jump right into the pool of features. I want gamification right now. I want AI. I have to have AI. I want an AI LMS. And, all that is really for beginners. Where organizations need to start is, what is the business goal and what is the measurable success criteria when you know that you have achieved that goal? And so by starting there, then that leads, okay, well then who are my audiences? Who are the main audiences from a learner standpoint? Are they association members? Are they non-members? Are they non-members internationally? Who else are all the people that would cross-functional, that would touch all these different audiences, like instructors perhaps, or administrators? Each one of those different roles has a series of things that you want them to do, things that they're doing now in the existing system, and things that are missing perhaps in the existing system that you want in a new system. So once you start with those goals and you understand the audiences and the use cases, then naturally you come to the features that you're going to need in the way that you need them working together. And if you approach it like that, then your features aren't just little things floating around in the universe. They're actually interconnected into a use case that you're actually looking for. And those use cases and those interconnected features also include things like what integrations you need and how do you need them and what is that learning ecosystem, as well as things on what kind of support you're going to need from the vendor to migrate off one system and get onto another system, from content migration and data migration and all the configuration and help. And then finally, how you're going to pay for it. Like, how does the vendor, and how do you need the vendor to charge for licensing? Like, is it just, do you have named users, or do you have, monthly counting, or based on your usage, annual counting is better? But all those things together, a use case, business goals, the functionality, the audiences, the integration, the technical and security, what services and support you need, how the vendor charges for a license, and then really what your cost threshold is. All of those together are your requirements. A lot of organizations don't realize that. They just think functional, and that's a great way to buy something that doesn't meet your needs.
Definitely. No, I know. I 100% agree with what you're saying, especially in the context of just obsessing over features like gamification, AI, right? Or even microlearning, right? I mean, I'm a little biased in that space, but they ignore relevant use cases like productized learning, right? And I think you and I are both kind of excited about this space because we're fans of the revenue side of learning experiences, right? When you deliver learning that actually makes your organization money, it means a lot more, right? In terms of the investment, what you're focused on. And for associations, non-due revenues are huge, right? They're becoming more important as memberships are dropping. Now, how should that change the way associations evaluate LMSs when they are focused on productized learning experiences, when they see education as a product?
Great question. And here's the core of talented learning in our research is there's 1,000 learning systems out there. There is no one learning system that's right for everybody. That's the reason that there's 1,000 out there. And those 1,000 learning systems all specialize in something different. It could be by use case, whether they're for associations or professional associations or only trade associations, or whether they're for corporations and their employees or their customers or their partners, or whether they're for training companies, or whether they're for any one of those things in the US or Canada or maybe Germany or Japan, or maybe in just one industry or another, or maybe it's around maybe. And so those maybes are what all different, the vendors all specialize in different variations of all those maybes. So maybe they're really good with associations on a global basis, especially when they're originating out of the UK, is their use case. And so what you find as you start digging into the use cases, these vendors align with those same categories of requirements I've talked about. And so associations, what they need to do to answer your question is find the subsegment of vendors that are operating as an association in member organizations, in your location, in your country, in your industry, operating for for revenue, model, and integrated into AM, and all those requirements will lead you to a different set of those 1,000 vendors. And so the lesson of 1,000 vendors is no organization, no association has to settle. There's something out there that meets all your requirements. And so the trick is to define those requirements, and if generating revenue, either by selling individual courses or bundles of courses to individuals or to organizations, with individuals, that's your business model. There's a system out there to do it. And so that's what I think association providers have to understand, is that no matter what they're trying to do, there's a vendor solution or a handful out there that have experience in doing it. And the trick is just defining exactly what you need and being able to cut through that 1,000 to get to the right subset that does it.
Yeah, definitely. There's almost an LMS platform for every single niche, every type of organization out there. There's hundreds of new ones every year, right? Especially with, I know different agencies that are launching their own AI-coded LMS platforms right now. And it's, I guess there's a solution for every niche. And when it comes to productized learning, I'm kind of excited about it because I like the approach of focusing on strategy, right? And then also testing your product strategy too, because a lot of associations, they're not delivering instructional material, they're delivering productized learning experiences. And I want to emphasize that because a lot of times you have an instructional design mindset behind the choice with an LMS, right? How can we gamify this, right? How can we add all these features? But at the end of the day, you essentially have to sell a product on the system. And are you considering B2B sales, right? Are you considering a different type of subscription-based services that you could be offering? And I do see those being some of the key questions to consider.
And also, what's the learner going to get out of it? And so, is this forced continuing education? Not forced, but if you want to continue in your career, do you have to take this content? And why take this association's content versus that association? These are all very for-profit decisions, even though we're operating in a non-profit space. But there's only there's a limited total addressable market, for each association and their members and non-members, domestically or globally. And so, thinking as what that product is, as you say, of what do they get out of it? Do they, learn better? Do they learn faster? Do they learn cheaper? Whatever that product is, that's what they have to really focus on selling to those learner groups. And that's a lot different than a learning system, for example, that's for employees that has mandatory compliance, where the employees have no choice. Take this training or you're fired is a different type of system than please take this training over this other 10 quality options that are out there also. And so having that marketing and all that enticement as part of the overall product experience before you get to the learning experience is critical, which is really a marketing skill set as it turns out, and less of an instructional design for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even in the context of instructional design, making sure that your course actually solves a problem, even if it's for continuing education, right? It makes it a lot easier to justify spending the exact same dollar amount on a course that I would argue sometimes is commoditized, right? There's a lot of content out there that's commoditized content that you can almost get for free just by signing up for a webinar. And sometimes they offer those credits that you'd be exchanging. So love the approach on focusing on the product in terms of problems and marketability. I do want to ask, and my experience going through this alone without a consultant was kind of difficult because we didn't have a concrete tested product strategy, right? I worked for the Institute for Supply Management. I oversaw their learning department, and I had a boss that was excited about microlearning, right? She wanted a subscription service, and it wasn't necessarily a tested concept in the field. And the great thing is she was innovative. She had this vision for this really cool, dynamic Netflix style learning experience, but it just ended up being a big market flop, right? The market wasn't ready for it 15 years ago, and it was a bit difficult to actually execute in terms of sales. So in the context of that, what kind of areas do you see being overlooked when associations are looking for an LMS, right? What mistakes do you see made when they're starting this process?
Well, I think as we mentioned, if you're focusing on what you think the solution would be without actually starting at the beginning and pulling it forward. So in your case, in your old position's case, maybe a micro-learning system is great, but maybe not everything is micro-learning. Maybe key programs are micro-learning, and you can pilot some of those key programs to see what your learners think before you double down, triple down on a huge learning strategy change. But the only way that you know that, and so I started off by education 30 years ago with a master's degree in instructional technology. Now I consider myself a marketing guy, and I really combined the two specialties throughout my career. But you know what? They're almost the same career. And so in instructional design, we don't do anything without a needs analysis, without an audience analysis, or you shouldn't, to understand what they need before you go and you build something, because you want to know what the goal is, what measurable thing you're trying to change, what behavior you're trying to change, and how you can measure to see if you did it. That's what you have to do in instructional design. And when you create good, effective learning, marketing, you do the exact same thing. You have to do an audience analysis. You have to survey sentiments. You have to figure out what they really need and why they need it. and what behavior you're trying to change, in that from getting no awareness, for example. But all the things that you do in marketing are the same things you do in instructional design and vice versa. And so when you're buying a new system, it's easy to overlook if you're not thinking about at the very beginning of what behavior you're trying to change. So if the behavior you're trying to change is perhaps after training, your learners are forgetting everything, and you want a micro-learning strategy to reinforce it in a personalized, adaptive manner to close that gap, well, then a micro-learning strategy makes a lot of sense. If, that's not the case, and what you're really trying to do is sell continuing education credits, and the learners need an hour credit, they don't want to take it maybe 61-minute in increments. They just want to knock the hour out and be done with it. And so it all depends what that audience needs and wants, and they won't all need and want the same thing. So you'll have to prioritize on how you do that, on what's most important. And so practically how that forms itself is that you never want to build everything to 100% and then roll it out and then see if they like it. It's much better to take it in smaller pieces, survey, understand what they want, roll it out, get your feedback, adapt, and change it as necessary, and then roll it out bigger from a more macro standpoint. And so if you do it like that, you'll rarely be in a position where you have a huge flop on the other side, because you'll detect that flop before you detect earlier in the process, which is ideal.
Absolutely. Actually, I'm a big fan of that concept of prototyping, right? In fact, we get a lot of professional education companies beyond LMS associations where they reach out, they have this idea on monetizing certain types of content. And the first thing I do is, sell the idea first, right? Let's do some case studies, or let's do some market analysis where you actually collect some revenue ahead of time. Prove that you have a funnel to support this, because it doesn't make sense for them to, even if it's for a single 1 hour course, which could be expensive, right? If you're trying to deliver something that looks great, it can be kind of pricey sometimes. We try to be budget friendly, but for monetizable products, maybe the user experience has to be better. But before you decide to commit to that, make sure you have a product or learning experience that sells. And the only way to do that is actually the best test for that is to sell it, because you can ask people, you can do surveys, and it gets a little more complicated, but I'm a big fan of pre-sales, right? If you can sell the product before you actually launch it, if you can have a learning experience that has a line of people waiting, already signed up for, where there's a contract in place, or even certain client partners already committing to engaging with it, that's one of the best forms of market data.
Yeah, for sure. That's ideal. A step less ideal, but practical sometimes, based on what it is identifying who advocates are in your association, ones that are always willing to help in one way or another, and see if you can rope them into reviewing that with a survey after it says, how valuable is this and what would you pay for it? And try to, get users' experience on what they place the value of that is, what would make it more valuable, and trying to solicit that data. So if you can get them to pay for it up front, that's ideal. Sometimes a step before that is to give it away free, get their feedback, and then go back, with a revised, okay, here's going to be our offering. Now can we sign you up? We heard you and we modified, and now can we sign you up? If we build this, will you buy it? And so you kind of set it up in almost two punches.
For sure. And I know that approach with actual selling the model, or almost essentially an MVP version of the actual course, it's a bit riskier. A lot more private companies are willing to do it compared to associations, which move at a slightly slower pace, right?
Prudent pace, I think. A prudent pace.
Oh, it drives me crazy though. I mean, there's the association space has so much potential for advancing trades, being a leader, especially with the way universities are kind of taking a step back in terms of being the field of choice for education, right? Associations have a huge opportunity, but one of my biggest frustrations is they still have this traditional prudent mindset on technology, innovation, and product strategy. And and this is a nice transition point to the conversation of AI, right? Because there's all of this technology available in terms of content development. LMSs are launching different types of features, and there's still hesitation on even touching it with some of our clients and even other clients we're talking to. And I just see this as one of the biggest neutralizers, right? For small organizations to compete with venture-backed firms in terms of content development and developing products that actually matter. So in that context, I know AI is, I guess we have to talk about it because seems like it's going to be part of the conversation for the next 5-10 years until they officially take over. And then it's
right. Yeah. Then we won't be allowed to talk about it anymore.
At least in the realm of LMSs, what capabilities are actually meaningful versus just marketing? Because it took a year for everyone to slap on some AI features, but what have you seen that actually matters?
Yeah, so part of my advisory services at Talented Learning, or part of my analyst services, is I run an annual awards for vendors every year. And so I basically collect comprehensive survey results from as many vendors as I can, usually about 250 or so. And then throughout the year, I'll see about 200 different demonstrations of new technology, either organizations that are new to me or getting updates from organizations that I've known, for a short time or for a long time. So I do this every day. I do one or two of these every day, it feels like. And so I'm getting to see, I went from seeing no AI to seeing no AI, use the double negative. Just every solution is developing it. And one of the interesting things from my perspective as an analyst is I just kind of categorize, what I'm seeing. And so I'm seeing it administrative AIs, that things that help with scheduling, things that help with reporting, things that help with content optimization and utilization, all kinds of things in that bucket. I'm seeing AI all around generative in creating courses and test questions and full lesson plans and interactivity and simulations. I'm seeing more administrative of things like globalization, from localization of, all different kinds, from one language to another, or taking the transcription from a video and localizing it. I'm seeing it in searching, where just making searching more semantic-based, context-based, peering inside of the AI's peering inside of courses and videos and audios and PDFs and taking you to the right spot in a document based on what you're trying to do at the time. Those are just some, there's just some examples of where AI is popping into these systems. And so what's more important, or what's important and what's not? Boy, it's hard to tell because each vendor, as it turns out, can invest in all those things at the same time. So based on their population, their client base, and their ideal customer profile, they're picking segments of that they want to master and do best and do first and prioritize. And so that's what I'm seeing out there. So it's, I guess in a nutshell, none of it is bad if you're starting with your business goals at the very beginning and working your requirements that way. You're going to maybe be an organization that needs more administrative help, and that's going to be a lot more important, where other associations, for example, don't want to do anything generative with the content because they just don't feel like that's appropriate yet with the level of technology and really how important their brand is, sometimes for decades or even a century, to their potential members. They don't want to jeopardize any of that yet with AI and content and messing things up. So it all depends on where you're at as an organization. But from an analyst standpoint, I'm just thrilled because at this point, I don't see robots taking over from our industry. That's going to happen from bomb throwers or things like that. But for right now, AI is making us better teachers, more efficient teachers, making learners better learners, more efficient learners, making everybody grow. So I'm kind of wide-eyed and optimistic here, kind of like I was at the beginning of social media. But at this point, it's been really good for all of us and good for associations, and if they want to take advantage of it, to try to do more with less. But you have to be strategic with it, like all technology.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I appreciate that approach. And I definitely see LMS as being a lot more strategic in how they focus on feature development in that space. For example, I was talking to, I think it was Oasis LMS, they're proud of the fact that they don't focus on content development, right? They don't have a content generative tool. It's not their niche, but they have a lot of cool AI analytics features, a lot of AI integrations tied to customer experience. And so they're actively choosing to have a focus on one thing versus not, because there's risks, but then sometimes you just can't be the best at it, right? Like, why would you limit, why would you make that a main feature when they can easily find another AI tool that develops content like this, right? And that's where it's a bigger part of their business model.
It's hard to differentiate with so many vendors. And so AI is a great way that vendors can differentiate right now, because it's fast and you can use AI to develop faster. And so it's a way to just get some operational space. And that's what these vendors need is, if you think they look like everybody else, they're not doing their job from a marketing standpoint and from a product development standpoint, because if they just say, me too, me too. And so as it turns out, AI is one of those feature sets that it really enhances what their differentiation already is, like Oasis you just mentioned is a great example, who probably already focuses much more on the administrative, who does much more on the administrative before AI. And so they're just doubling down on their differentiation, which is smart.
For sure. And I know we can have an entire conversation on AI and analyst platforms. So I'll pick your brain and invite you back in the future. But as we wrap this up, I wanted to ask 2 questions. What's something that you're excited about in terms of AI-driven changes in the LMS space within the next 3 to 5 years that you see happening? And then question 2 is, who's somebody that you look up to in the industry, right? Who's somebody that's just on this technology that you're excited about?
Okay, good questions. What I'm excited about in this space, AI or no AI, is that learning in general has made a shift to measurable results. And so I've been thinking down this vein for a long time. At Talented Learning, I've been preaching it for now 13 years. But what I rarely saw before was organizations thinking about learning and measurement in terms of dollars, in terms of revenue. What I used to see is in terms of training completion, engagement, training metrics, which are really important. But the industry and the best of the industry has made that bridge to combining that data with business metrics, so you actually know what your training is doing, and you can get visibility into how effective it is. And with that visibility, like anything else in life, once you know where the line in the sand is, you can keep on moving it and making it better. And so that bridge to learning for the sake of avoiding fines and compliance, to learning to be a strategic advantage of your organization and being able to prove it, I'm excited about, because I think that's cool. And I think it makes us indispensable as professionals in the industry, and makes us do something that is really good. Making people smarter, faster, and better is not a bad calling in life. So I'm excited about all of that in the industry. And AI, to wrap it up then, is making those connections easier. It's making it easier to analyze all that data, to find those trends, to find that line in the sand, to give you recommendations to move that line forward. And all of that is just helping you get to measurable business results faster. I'm excited about that.
Awesome. Love the approach,
Awesome.
John.
Who do I look up to?
Oh yeah, I almost forgot.
I
just assumed it was me, but who else do you look up to?
That's funny you say that. You're my number one choice. It's nice. I do, and I'm not just saying that because you're kind enough to invite me on your podcast, but I've watched you here as a thought leader and somebody who tries to build a following through offering followers some good strategic advice on how to navigate the marketplace. Like, you're on fire, man. Your podcast is great. You've got great content out there. You did guest post on Talented Learning. It's some of the most thoughtful stuff that we're seeing. You got more followers, just raking up followers all over the place, so your message is resonating. So you're certainly somebody that I respect and follow in the industry. Great job on your progress. Someday I'll be like, oh, I knew Erick when.
I'm trying. I think we're all trying, right, John? I appreciate it. I think it's just certainly aging.
And if I want to put another one in our category, I think does the same type of thing, is I really admire my old professor, Dr. Carl Kopp, who puts out a lot of content and thought leadership in this industry also. And I'm about 15 years behind him in trying to be a thought leader, and I've been following his model since day one. So I think between the two of you, if you follow Carl and Eric, you'll get smarter on how to do this.
Awesome, John. So we're going to put your links to your website, your YouTube channel, which I'm very proud to say that I was the 1,000th subscriber. Made sure to send a screenshot on that one, as well as your LinkedIn. I appreciate the time, John. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Thanks, Eric. It's great to be here. Audience, have a great day.
Want to learn more about microlearning best practices? We've got you covered. Check out the video cards for more related content. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly tips and explore the description for a curated list of resources to continue your e-learning journey.